Hello and welcome to the Southeastern 14 College Football Week 1 preview. The Utah Utes traveling all the way across the country to face the Florida Gators in what is one of the marquee matchups in all of Week 1, a traditional SEC power looking to get back to prominence under the new head coach, Billy Napier, have an exciting quarterback in Anthony Richardson that's getting a lot of preseason hype. So we'll see how things go in the first week of Billy Ball down in Florida. And now you have the Utah Utes coming into town, one of the most physical teams in the entire country, really captured the attention of the nation in the Rose Bowl last year, jumping out 35-14 versus Ohio State, and ends up losing that game, but showed everybody that the Utah program has come a long way from being in the Mountain West and being the team that kind of spoils the BCS back in the days of Urban Meyer. So these two programs kind of connected through that with a past history of a head coach. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the basics of this one. You see September 3rd. It is a Week 1 game at the Swamp at the University of Florida, 7 o'clock kickoff on ESPN. All-time matchup. Florida has won the only meeting between these two teams in 1977. And interestingly enough, there is another. Utah is a 2.5-point favorite with the over-under set at 53. So a lot of respect for the Utah Utes coming to Florida, the heat, the humidity, a night game, and they're coming all the way across the country on the road Week 1, and Vegas still likes Utah as a 2.5-point favorite. Typically, Vegas gives 3 points to the home team, a little home field advantage. So realistically, you could say that people are looking at Utah as closer to a 5.5-point favorite in this one, given those factors here, but the line is officially set at 2.5. The headlines going into this one, like I said, it is the first game for Florida under Billy Napier, a young head coach that is coached under Nick Saban, under Dabo Swinney, and did a great job at Louisiana Lafayette. He's got his work cut out for him as Dan Mullen really kind of let that program drop off in terms of recruiting. And then the team totally lost faith in Mullen towards the end of last year, and that defense was abysmal last year, giving up 52 points to Samford. So there is a lot to rebuild, but there's also a lot of excitement there under Billy Napier. He's utilized the transfer portal. He finished out the class of 2022 well. He's trying to chip away at the class of 2023. So the Billy Ball era begins for Florida. Utah, they are a college football playoff contender. Make no mistakes about it. That they are stating that as their goal, and they are a team that has a quarterback returning that's one of the most efficient in the country. Tough as nails is Cam Rising. And they have their leading rusher back that kind of broke out last year, 3 offensive line returners. We're going to touch on all that in a little while. But Utah is a team that is looking to make noise nationally, not just out in the Pac-12 this year. And an early physical test for both teams. Billy Napier likes to play a physical brand of football. So does Kyle Whittingham. So both teams are going to get tested physically early. Utah, year in and year out under Kyle Whittingham, is a team that prides themselves on their physicality. And you know that Billy Napier and his coaching staff are going to have their guys ready to try to match that physically in this first game. Let's talk about the dudes. You've got Cam Rising and Anthony Richardson coming in, and one of the more interesting quarterback matchups coming into this contest. Cam Rising is a guy who took over the starting role for Utah in Game 4 last year after Charlie Brewer started the first 3 games, and Cam Rising didn't look back. He ends up with a 4-to-1 touchdown ratio on the year. 20 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, was 6th in the country in QBR. So Cam Rising really, really has the Utah fan base excited with him coming back. He's got Devon Vele, who is a 6'5" guy who ended up, was a walk-on, ends up working his way. He's now a bona fide number 1 receiver. Dalton Kincaid broke out at tight end last year. He's part of a 2-headed monster over there at tight end. So Utah could be utilizing a lot of 12 personnel in this one. Then Tavion Thomas with that 12 personnel, they could get an extra hat in the box there, try to out leverage the defense there. But Tavion Thomas had 1,100 yards rushing for Utah last year after being a transfer from Cincinnati in the 2019 and the 2018 2019 seasons at Cincinnati, sat out 2020. And then you have him breaking out last year for Utah. Had a stretch where he had 8 touchdowns in 6 quarters versus UCLA and Stanford. So Utah going to be looking to run the rock. They have 3 returning starters on the offensive line. You look over at Florida's offense, Anthony Richardson is going to be the guy that makes everything go. He's a lethal runner, and he's just trying to improve a little bit on the accuracy metrics. In passing, 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions last year. Had some issues with some inconsistency between him and Emory Jones. Had some injury stuff that he had to work through. A hamstring, gets knocked out of the game versus Georgia with a head injury. So if Anthony Richardson can stay healthy, he is as talented as a quarterback as you'll find in the country. You see these NFL draft projections having him, as high as a 9th, 10th pick overall next year. They're assuming that he has a really good turnaround and good year under Rob Sale and Billy Napier in year 1 of their tenure at Florida. And Levi Lewis is an example at Louisiana Lafayette that Billy Napier is able to have a lot of success with a dual threat guy like Anthony Richardson. So we'll see how year 1 goes for him. It'll be a tough matchup against that Utah defense. It's always very disciplined. Montrell Johnson comes over with Billy Napier from Louisiana Lafayette. He was his 2nd leading rusher over at Louisiana Lafayette last year. Impressive in Florida's spring game. So look for Montrell Johnson to carry the load for Florida, with Naquan Wright being a guy they turn to as well. Justin Shorter is going to be the number 1 option. Him, Xavier Henderson are guys that Anthony Richardson is going to be looking to make some big plays for him down the field. Dante Zanders and Keon Zippier at tight end are guys that can make plays in the play action game. You'd see Florida run some split zone action, sneak them out in the flat, and some more play action type stuff. Especially with the threat of quarterback run, the tight ends can be very effective. Richard Gurriage comes back for Florida. He is the left tackle who has a lot of experience. Florida has 3 starters returning, and they also have Osiris Torrance coming over from Louisiana Lafayette. Torrance started 36 games in the Sun Belt for Billy Napier, so he's very comfortable with what Napier likes to do. So look for some improvement in that Gator offensive line with all that experience coming through. Junior Tafuna and Devin Kafusi, 2 big defensive linemen for Utah. They'll have their hands full up front trying to make sure they stifle that Florida running game, and then also making sure they can corral Anthony Richardson and keep him contained when he does decide to break the pocket and try to get out and do some things. Kareem Reed is a guy who got a lot of experience for Utah last year. They lost their 2 starting linebackers, but he was kind of that third backer, so he ends up stepping in. He'll be a guy who knows Kyle Whittingham's system and has to kind of step into that role of maybe being the leader of that linebacker position. But they also have, interestingly enough, Mohamed Diabate, who transfers from Florida to Utah, and he was a starter for the Gators last year, will now be a primary guy on that Utah defense. And they have some talented defensive backs as well over there. Clark Phillips, an all-conference guy from a year ago, and Colt Bishop. He only started half the year, but he got some all-conference love as well. So there is a lot of excitement about those 2 guys in the secondary for Utah. You look at Florida's defense. It was much maligned last year, but they've got some big names coming back with Gervin Dexter and Brenton Cox getting after people on the front of that defensive line. Those 2 are going to have to be outstanding for Florida in this first year under Billy Napier. Brenton Cox has always been a guy who has been extremely talented, went to Georgia to start off his career, transferred to Florida. The effort has been questioned at times. Is this the year that he puts everything together. Gervin Dexter should be a really high draft pick next year. Ventrell Miller coming back. People are very excited about Ventrell Miller coming back for Florida. Brings a lot of leadership, and so do Trey Dean and Jason Marshall on the back end for the Gators. Overall, looking at the score, I think that Utah is just going to be too talented for Florida in this first matchup. I know people are going to say, oh, well, look at the talent composites, all that kind of stuff. You're not taking into account that Kyle Whittingham is one of the best at developing talent. His staff has been in place for a long time. They've utilized the portal nicely to get a couple key pieces, and they have a quarterback that is, like I said, tough as nails. This road environment shouldn't be a big deal for him in terms of affecting his game very much. Now, I know it's going to be loud. The swamp's going to be rocking, but I look for Utah to try to establish the run and stifle Florida's running game early to kind of take the crowd out of it. I think Utah's true contenders. I really think you'll see them represent the Pac-12 into the college football playoff for the first time in a long time. This year, the Pac-12 can have a representative, and the Pac-12 seems to be going away, and they may be going away with a bang right here with the Utah Utes. Like I said, established program, and I think at the end of the day, Utah wins this game in the trenches. Give me Utah to turn over Anthony Richardson a time or two, and I think the Utah Utes win this one 27-17. This is not a terrible loss for the Florida Gators, especially in week one of a new era with a lot of pieces doing some new things. I think that Florida will eventually be very good under Billy Napier, but I think it takes a couple games to get going here. They turn right back around with a tough Kentucky game the next week. So it'll be interesting to see how Florida responds, but I think Utah comes out on top. Make sure that you're following Southeastern 14 for all of our SEC game previews during the year. Myself, Chris Lee, and Blake Lovell. I'm Blaine Gilmer. We all are going to be breaking these games down midweek during the season live on Wednesday nights. So make sure to subscribe to Southeastern 14, and we will catch you guys next time here on the channel.